the God at the start of Genesis that is creating the world is actually an amalgamation to deceive and misdirect of the gods, the reptilian gods. And what's being described is not the creation of the world, but the creation of the simulation, the matrix. And so when we hear lines like, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, I say what's being described is electromagnetic light, which is basically what this simulation is. And I said just after the turn of the millennium that this is a simulation, and the walls of it, certainly at our level anyway, are the speed of light, which is not the fastest speed possible. That's a joke. We're dealing with all possibility here. That's the fastest speed possible. It's a joke. It's the speed of the matrix of the simulation. And there was an article in Scientific American in April of this year where some academic said, we live in a simulation and the walls of the simulation are the speed of light. And he was relating the speed of light in simulation terms to the processing speed. Because what is physics? What is the law of physics, as we call it? It's whatever the creator of the simulation decided it was going to be. What are, in effect, the laws of physics of computer games? They're whatever the creator of the game decides they're going to be. But as this article pointed out, you can create the laws within your game, but you're still going to be limited by the processing speed you're dealing with. And that's why the speed of light is this faster speed. That's why when people have near-death experiences, they leave the body, which is locking us into the simulation through the five senses, and they experience a totally different version of physics, where past, present, and future all kind of happen at once in the same now. But within the simulation, we have time, we have all these other illusions, which are the creation of the simulation. So you had this treasure trove of documents that were found at Nag Hammadi in 1945, about 75 miles north of Luxor in Egypt, which was an earthen jar of the writings of the Gnostic people. And it's reckoned that they were put in that jar 400 AD, something like that. And about a fifth of these writings were about what they called archons, which is Greek for rulers, who were manipulating human society. And what they say in these writings is that this world is a fake world. It's a fake reality created by this archontic force to enslave humanity in an illusion. I went through all of them, and what you see, they're describing a virtual reality universe. That's what they're describing in their own language, what we would call today virtual reality. One of the great things today is that because of the technological advancement, so-called, we've now got the analogies and the experience of virtual reality to actually describe what this reality is.
You are power.
Called enemies within yourself. Here's the first one: indifference. Whatever you do, practice not being casual. You've got to shake off sometimes the lethargy that would say, oh, well, maybe it's not going to work for me, or I'll just go along and see what happens. I'm asking you, whatever you do, the intensity that you've gathered up here during this extravaganza, I want you to take this same intensity home with you. Don't be casual. Casualness creates casualties, whether it's in Herbalife or whether it's on the freeway. Go home with a renewed intensity. Don't let indifference take over. Here's the next one: indecision. Someone's mentioned it a couple of times on this stage. They've had to deal with it. You've got to deal with it. Indecision is called the thief of opportunity. Make decisions even if it's a wrong decision. Do the very best you can, make a decision and go with it. If it doesn't work out because it was a wrong decision, I'm telling you, that gives you experience now to make a better decision. Here's the next one: doubt. We've all got to deal with the enemy of doubt. Cynicism has a unique way of crowding in on all of us. Being cynical about the government, being cynical about banks and money, being cynical about society, being cynical about the past, cynical about the future. I'm asking you, don't let that disease grab you by the throat and ruin your chances to do well in herbal life. Yes, it's easy to doubt that it can happen. It's easy to doubt. We've all got fears that want to crowd in. And here's one of the worst ones of all, and that is to doubt yourself. I know we look at Mark, glamorous, handsome, good-looking, extremely successful, say, my gosh, I don't think that could happen for me. But I want you to know that Mark says, and I say to you, that if it can happen to us, it can happen to anybody in this room. Don't doubt your own ability. Don't doubt your own strength. If Mark can make it through some tough times, you can make it through. If Mark went through some strenuous times, you can go through those strenuous times. When the nights were long for Mark, I'm telling you, he made it. If he made it, you can make it. If I can make it, you can make it. If these people in the president's team can carve out an extraordinary story, second to none, in the business community of the world, I'm telling you, from these tables, this success can go right on back to the millionaire team and the Get team and to everybody up there, wherever you're sitting today. All of this belongs to all of you. Don't doubt that, not for a minute.
Isn't it fantastic that if there's no purpose, you have nothing to fulfill, you can just live? No, but you want a purpose. And not a simple purpose, you want a God-given purpose. It's very dangerous. People who think they have a God-given purpose are doing the cruelest things on the planet. Yes or no? They are doing the most horrible things, and they've always been doing the most horrible things. Because when you have a God-given purpose, life here becomes less important than your purpose. No, life is important. Life is important. When I say life, I am not talking about your family, your work, what you do, what you do not do, your party. I'm not talking about that as life. This is life, isn't it? Life is within you or around you. The ambience of life, you're mistaking the ambience of life for life. Your home, your family, your workspace, your party, this is all ambience of life. This is not life, isn't it? Yes or no? You're mistaking the ambience for the real thing. No. Life is important because it's the only thing you know. You don't know anything else. Do you know something else? Rest is all imagined stuff, isn't it? The only thing is that this is beating and alive and that's all there is. So is this important? It is of paramount importance. Not you as a person, that's not important. But you as a piece of life, it's very important. Because that is the basis of everything. When I say that is the basis of everything, the universe exists for you only because you are, isn't it? Yes or no? The world exists for you only because you are, otherwise it wouldn't exist in your experience. So, in every way, this is important. So what is the purpose for this? See, if you had a purpose and if you fulfilled it, after that what would you do? After that what would you do? Bored, isn't it? It is just that life is so intricate and so phenomenally intricate that if you spend 10,000 years looking at it carefully, you still will not know it entirely. If you spend 1,000,000 years looking at it with absolute focus, still you will not know it in its entirety. That's how it is. Is there a meaning to it? The greatest thing about life is that there is no meaning to it. This is the greatest aspect of life, that it has no meaning to it and there is no need for it to have a meaning. It is the pettiness of one's mind that it is seek a meaning, because psychologically you will feel kind of unconnected with life if you don't have a purpose and a meaning. People are constantly trying to create these false purposes. Now, they were quite fine and happy, suddenly they got married, now the purpose is the other person. Then they have children, Now they become miserable with each other. Now the whole purpose that I go through all this misery is because of the children. Like this it goes on.
Write this down. God will promote you to the level of your tolerance of pain. God will promote you to the level of your tolerance of pain. At the point that you can't handle pain, you lose the promotion. He promotes you to the level of your tolerance of pain. If you can't take it, you can't be promoted. You can't handle it, you're too sensitive, you can't have it. In the corporate world, the people who get the big bucks are paid to handle problems. You can't be an executive and you can't handle stress. You can't be a manager and your feelings are sensitive. You can't run a corporation and you can't handle problems. We don't put you in a corporate office to overview the city with glass all around you, not to handle problems. We gave you that so that you could process the problem. The big bucks go to problem handlers, people who can solve it, people who can make it happen, people who can get it done. Offenses will come. That's a promise. Offenses will come. If you avoid offenses, you avoid life. Offenses will come. They will come over and over and over and over and over again. They will come. I don't know whether the mail is going to come, but offenses will come. The longer you live, the more things are going to offend you. It is impossible to hide from it. You cannot dodge it. Everywhere you go, you will run into offenses. You must understand that your ability to handle offense will determine your direction for the next 20, 30 years of your life. So when you ask for promotion, you're asking for problems. You're asking for offenses. You're asking, fill my desk with offense. I can handle it. I'm the man for the job. I'm here to represent. I can handle it. Let me put it in Bible language. To him whom much is given, much is required. You can't get the much giving if you're not going to deal with the much required. Let me break it down in colloquialism. New levels, new devils. The higher you go, the more you're going to have to confront with every day. So when you are where you are right now and you say, I can't take this, I can't handle this, I don't want any more, this is driving me crazy, you are saying, I don't want to go any higher. You are rejecting the call to move forward, because moving forward and moving up means more problems. In fact, the problems that you're dealing with right now may be the fact that you are in training. If you don't let it break you, if you don't let it destroy you, if you don't wimp out and let it beat you down, if you just master the situation, refuse to be intimidated, and learn how to manage the stress on the next level, then doors swing open. There's this magical thing about life, and I believe it's divinely inspired. You know how you go to the grocery store and you stand at a certain spot, you haven't even gotten to the door yet, but when you get in close proximity, the doors just start opening. When you can stand on a level of life where you're dealing with opposition and pressure and turmoil and take a licking and keep on ticking, and it might have stressed you out, you might have felt the pressure, you might have felt like breaking, but you didn't break, doors just start opening up for you to go to the next level. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute, because when I start talking about dealing with conflict, all of the conflict is not external conflict. Some of it is internal conflict. Because when you come from back there and you start moving up further and further and further, and every step you take takes you to a different level of life and living, sometimes your life is moving faster than your mentality. You can have the desk you dreamed about, the position you wanted, the ministry you wanted, the opportunity you wanted, and everything moved up except your perception of yourself. Are you following what I'm saying to you? And I want you to understand something, that when God begins to move you along in life, it's not an elevator, it's a step-by-step process. So many people attempt to move forward in a rapid motion. They want to go from midnight to morning. They want to go from the basement to the presidential suite in one step. That's not what you want. You don't want to take the elevator, because if you take the elevator and you get it too fast, you can't handle it. You can't handle it. Oh, I know you want the money, but you can't handle the pressure and the problems and the conflict and the criticism and the opposition. And so God has designed it that you would move along in steps, in stages, not too fast. And every time you take a step, you have to kind of balance yourself and get used to this level of opposition, this level of controversy, this level of conflict, this level of criticism, because again, that's what they're paying you for, is managing trouble. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? And just as soon as you get it all down pat and you've mastered it and you say, good, I'm comfortable now, this is now my new normal, I'm okay with it, then all of a sudden you take another step. You're back in a situation where you're learning again and you're being hit in places you never expected to be hit before, and you're dealing with life on another level. And that happens whether you're in a corporation, whether you're in a church, or whether you're a family and you just had another child. Every time you have a child, new conflict, new problems, new things to deal with, more to manage, more to handle. You just got used to having one. You come back from the doctor. Now you're getting ready to have two. Everything's got to shift. Everything's got to move. Everything you learned about the first child doesn't work on the second child. Come on, somebody knows what I'm talking about. But God is so gracious because he leads you along in steps and stages. And periodically, he will stop the process, allow you to evaluate where you are, to better understand where you are, and put you in a position that you can deal with your heart and mind and emotions that may still be back there where you started. And people are jealous of you and envious of you and fighting you, and they don't understand that you still perceive yourself as if you were where you started. But the steps of the Lord are leading you higher and higher and further and further and further than you've ever been before. Touch somebody and say, take another step. There's another step waiting for you. There's another dimension of life, another dimension of leadership, another dimension of problems, another dimension of conflict, another dimension of faith and finances and family and all of that. And if you don't break, and if you don't bow, and if you don't quit, and if you can maintain your faith in the middle of conflict and opposition, if you can neutralize controversy and learn how to take a licking, keep on ticking, keep your mind together, keep your wits about you, then God has ordered steps for you. And I want to tell you something. Your eyes have not seen, your ears have not heard the things that God has in store for you. He has a blessing for you. He has a promise for you. And all you have to do is stop complaining about where you are. Because when you complain about where you are, you do like Israel. You wander around the wilderness because you're not eligible to make the promotion because you're grumbling about the level you're on right now. You are canceling out the opportunity to go to the next level if you stop murmuring and complaining and say, I thank you for this conflict. I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for this controversy. I thank you for this training. I thank you for this opposition. I thank you for this enemy. Order my steps, Lord. Order my steps. Get me ready. I trust you. You wouldn't lead me into this position if you had not equipped me with everything I need for where I am right now. Are you ready for this? Touch three people and say, take another step. Take another step. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. Don't bow. Don't break. Don't give in.
Once we've adopted these standards of behavior and conduct, we're committed to honor them. And if we don't, then there can be no disciplined activity.
If you're not hungry, if you're not willing, if you don't have the grit, if you don't have the tenacity, then you're not going to get what you're looking for.
I have to be truthful to myself. You have to be truthful to yourself. You have to stop rationalizing, stop making excuses, stop telling yourself little watered down assessments of where you're really at. Tell yourself the truth.
If you live very long at all of your youthful idealism gives way to the harsh realities of life itself. When you were a teenager, you thought you knew everything music, but when you got to put everything in practice, you found out it wasn't as easy as you thought it was. Life has a way of making you close your mouth. Life will mute you, shut you down. Because all of us, if you live long enough, will go through a period of feeling so overwhelmed that you think of one more thing if the phone rings, one more time if I get another text, if I get another email. Sometimes I question technology. I appreciate all the advances, but I don't need another way for anybody to be able to access me.
We find ourselves announcing our standards to our relatives, our friends, our associates. We shout our beliefs and condemn those who believe any differently, but then we don't walk the talk. We end up acting in a way far different from the beliefs we've shouted. We tell our kids that the TV is rotting their minds, yet we spend our evenings in front of it. We tell our employees that they must take advantage of every minute of the working day, yet we spend 3 hours at lunch. Do as I say, not as I do. This is inconsistent. This leads to a loss of credibility among those who watch us. And more importantly, this leads to a loss of credibility within ourselves.
I want you to recognize that it takes work. It takes sacrifice. It takes understanding. It takes will. It takes determination. This is that time right now to get it. Push that last rep. Push with everything you got. Tell excuses to step aside. Let weakness know that it is not welcome in your house. And go after what it is that you are seeking. Because the opportunities are yours. Go get it. Go get it now. And give it everything you got. Be productive. Be powerful. And from the bottom of my heart, conduct your business.
The only thing worse than one who is inconsistent in applying their self-imposed disciplines is one who has never considered the need or the value of discipline at all. These people seem to wander aimlessly, changing procedures, changing standards, changing loyalties, and shifting frequently from one commitment to another, leaving behind a trail of broken friendships, unfinished projects, and unfulfilled promises, all because of a discipline that was either non-existent or imposed so infrequently that it was ineffective. Here's the third step to becoming consistently self-disciplined. Number 1 is realizing that discipline isn't the easiest option. Number 2, discipline is a full-time activity, day by day, every day. And the third step to becoming self-disciplined is really a philosophy that holds one of life's unique promises.
You want a shortcut. You want to go the easy route. That's what you're looking for, right? That's what you're thriving for, right? It's not how it works in the real world. There are no easy days. Why would you want easy? Why do you want to just take the short route? How many times have you parked your car at your local grocery store and you wanted to get closer to the door instead of parking far away from the door? That is an opportunity right there to test yourself and say, why not walk a little bit further? You're probably thinking, why should I? Because it's convenient for me to be closer to the door. Convenience is not always the best policy. It's not the best way to go about things in your life. Everything should not be given to you. Instead, you should earn it.
You've lost again and again. Again, the lights are cut off, but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day, and say to yourself, it's not over until. If you want to make your dream become reality, the people that are running at their dreams know that it's possible. That you can live your dream, that it's necessary, that you're relentless, that you have a plan of action, that you are creative. The people that are living their dream of finding winners to attach themselves to the people that are living their dreams of a people that know that it's going to happen, it's up to them, and they're resolving within themselves, it's not over until I win. Listen to me very closely. Winners win, and losers lose, and there are those of you out there, you lose it and you don't deserve to lose. You put in the work, you work hard, and you blooms.
So that you can get where you want to go. You can be who you want to be. You can be who you should be. Who you should be when you do what you know you should do, when you pay attention to the little things, when you implement discipline, true and unflinching and unmitigated discipline in your life, when you stop trying to find a sweatless solution, when you look for weaknesses to work on, when you allow no easy excuses. And all that starts when you stop lying to yourself.
Given equally to every human being, time is therefore the only commodity every human possesses. We don't possess the same amount of money. We possess the same amount of time. So the key to life is what you become in life is determined by how you use the time you have. And that's why we use terms like spending time. Time is a currency. Every human has the same amount every day. And time, like currency, must be spent. And here's the problem. Time is used to buy life. So whatever you are, you spend your time buying it. Time is so powerful that whatever you invest your time in, you become. Write this down. Time can be what? Abused. Time can also be lost. You can lose it, just like money. Time can be squandered, just like money. You can spend an entire day. Have you ever said this? I don't know where the day gone.
I mean, you do me a favor, this is me here to turn that around. The people that are running after that dream know they're gonna have hard times. They keep on running because they're saying within themselves, I'm the one no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. The people that are running after their dreams are the people that are hungry. Listen to me very closely. Somewhere you are broke, listen to me, you flat out broke, right? You ain't got gas money. And we're not just talking about money, you've broken your relationships. You've broken your health and you not work because you have to be right. And I'm telling you, your whole life is gonna change.
When you stop lying to yourself, that's when you can become who you know you should be. When you tell yourself the truth about where you are so you can make sure you are in the right place. And if you're not in the right place, that you can get yourself on the path to get there. Path of discipline, the path of hard work, and the path of truth.
Most people, their associations are to avoid anything that's uncomfortable. But it's so illogical. Because when you look at comfort, a lot of those are connected to discomfort. Like discomfort is your friend. It really is. Like discomfort, not being happy and content with certain situations in life, certain feelings in life. They're massive motivators and they're amazing at facilitating change. Well, when I was 21 and I was first starting to do comedy, that's when I was really devouring as much of it as possible because I was trying to figure out like how to not be so lazy.
Yeah, I know it. That's right. Why? You squandered it. It didn't take you closer to your goals, didn't take you closer to your vision, didn't accomplish the things you wanted, and you spent it and squandered it on stuff that didn't count. Time is more important than money. That's why the businessman say time is. Can I put it another way? Write this down. Time can be depreciated just like money. Time can also be devalued. Every hour is important. My question is, what are you spending it on? You can reduce the value of your life by the things you spend your time with, who you spend your time with, where you spend your time all day. You can devalue your time. I'm a victim of time. Write this down, please. You can never stop time. You can also never control it. You can't resist it. You can't never compromise with time.
If you would get off the couch, stop playing video game, having a good time, you've got to have the strength of character to concentrate to read the guide. Just information, you've got to learn how to become resourceful, you've got to learn how to become creative like Thrill You broke at you. Will you grow by complaining, I'm going to a job you don't like, you are broke? This is them, you go on to a job you'll like, you've been there 15, 20 years and put on the job. I'm not even saying you should quit your job, but I'm saying that after you get off work just like you, invested ever you need to invest in yourself. And the problem is simple, you're not investing in your idea, that you're always looking for a way to get over.
Well, some of you read that I think about when it's hot outside, that it's sunny and 70. Well, it's fucking not today. It's the reality. It's about 90 degrees and 100% humidity. But who gives a shit? That being said, September 3rd, I have to have my book turned in. And what I realized, I'm reading this book a lot, but I realized I wasn't born this motherfucker. I made him. At the bottom of insecurities, fear, self-doubt, lies, was me buried in the fucking fetal position. How I got out of that was recognizing it, being honest with it, being truthful with it, and then fixing it. We like to live on social media with lies about ourselves, how great we are. Get to the source and fix the problem. I'm a big believer in doing something that sucks every single day of your life. I believe it's a key component into strengthening your mind. Every day you're trying to find more of what you're capable of. And that's the big question. What are you capable of?
Learn from the mistakes of other people because you can't make them all yourself. And so I saw them selling drugs, but I also saw the outcome. And so I said, I'm not selling drugs. I'm not joining a gang because I see where that road leads to. Either I'm going to end up dead or in prison. I said, so my best bet may be to go to the NFL. And so I went to my cousin by the name of Taman. I said, listen, man, I want to go to the NFL. I feel our family deserves a better way of life. Let's work for it. I said, we're going to be patient. We're going to engage in consistent action every night. And so every night we would go out and we would race light pole to light pole in Kirkwood. No shoes. Light pole to light pole every night. And so one night we were getting ready to race, and down the street came a big blue pickup truck. And it pulled over to the side, and out of it got a white guy. First white guy I ever saw in my life. True story. And my uncle Bobo, who just got sentenced to 40 years in prison, he was on one corner. My other uncle Johnny, he was on the other corner. My uncle Bobo took off running, and he looked at me. He said, Ink, don't talk to him. Saying to me, that guy has to be the police. Coach Trey walked up to us, nicest guy in the world. He said, would you kids like to play organized sports? I stepped to the front. I said, yes, sir. He said, go in the house and get your guardian. My uncle JJ was there. I went in the house. I said, Unc, there's a guy outside. He asked me if he'd like to play organized sports. I told him yes. He said, well, I go in the house to get my guardian. I'm coming to get you. Will you please talk to him? My uncle said, sure. My uncle walked outside. Coach Trey said, would you like to sign these kids up for organized sports? My uncle said, yes, sir, but I hate to tell you, we don't have the money. He said, don't worry about the money. You get them to the park and I'll take care of it. That same guy still buys me drawers and socks until this day on Christmas, and I'm 29 years old, and he started when I was 7. But a weird thing happened one night. You see, most nights after practice, everybody would leave to go home, and I always had to sit in the park because my mother worked at Wendy. And my mother didn't get off work till about 10 o'clock, 10:30 most nights, and I'll be sitting there in the park, and I loved it. I didn't want anybody to take me home because when I went home, I was sleeping on the floor with roaches and rats. And so anytime I got in solitude to dream, anytime I got in solitude to think about what I wanted to do for my family and my community, I took advantage of it. And so most nights, I'll be sitting there in the park, and I'll be looking up at the lights. And I'll be envisioning myself doing things in the NFL, envisioning myself doing things for my community. And just as the lights would always go out, my mother, she would pull up, and she used to drive an old Buick Regal. Hubcaps off the car, seats torn up, the car was all beat up. And she would pull up and she would put the car in park. And I would always hop up, I would run over to my mother, I would give her a hug and a kiss. And I would say, Mom, if you don't mind, can you please sit back in your car? I have to do some extra drills. I have to go to the NFL. She would never have to work another day in your life. And I knew she was tired. And every night my mother would say, sure, Ink, and she would sit back in that car. Those car lights would hit that field, and here you had a 7-year-old kid doing backpedaling drills, running sprints, running laps, chasing his dream to go to the NFL. And just beyond those car lights, I could always connect with my mother's eyes. And so it made me dig a little bit deeper. It made me push myself a little bit further. It made me work a little bit harder. I live by this thing called the harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. You see, the reason people quit, they don't take pride in what they do. The harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. And I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about winning simultaneously in every aspect of life. I'm not concerned with a person that does well in one aspect of their life and they can hang their hat there and say, man, I made a lot of money. You made a lot of money. You're a public success, but you're a private failure. What good is it to make a lot of money and you don't want to go home to your family? What good is it to make a lot of money and you don't take care of your kids? What good is it? You're a public success, but you're a private failure. And so how can we win simultaneously and take pride in everything that we do? And one night my mother couldn't pick me up and she called Coach Trey. She said, Coach, I can't make it tonight. Can you please take Inky home? And so he put me and about 8 guys in the back of his pickup truck, and he said, Inky, I'm gonna drop you off last. And so when he got to my house, I got out on the sidewalk, and I'm standing in front of 125 Warren Street, and I looked back at Coach Trey, and I said, why are you doing this? Because where I came from, people didn't just help you. It was, I pat you on your back, you gotta pat me on my back. You remember I did that for you, you gotta do this for me. And I said, why are you doing this? And he looked back at me and he said, son, I want to tell you something. And he said, I don't want you to ever forget it. He said, son, the more you make sure that somebody else's life is okay, God will always make sure that your life is okay.
Over caution. Some people never will have much. They're too cautious. Now, you can also be too reckless, but you can also be too cautious. This is called the timid approach to life. And my caution was always the risk. Risk used to drive me right up the wall. I used to say, what if this happens? It's called the language of the poor. What if this happens? And on top of that, if this was to happen, look at the fix I'd be in. I'd better not try. I could always ace myself out. Then I'll tell you what changed my whole life when I finally discovered it's all risky. The minute you were born, it got risky. If you think trying is risky, wait till they hand you the bill for not trying. If you think investing is risky, wait till you get the tab for not investing. See, it's all risky. Getting married is risky. Having children is risky. Going into business is risky. Investing your money is risky. It's all risky. I'll tell you how risky life is. You're not going to get out alive. The Englishman says, well, if that's the way it's going to work out, let's give it a go. Right. That's what it's for. Give it a go. Somebody says, yeah, but I'm looking for safety and security. Fine, then huddle in a corner. We'll cover you with a sheet, bring you 3 meals a day. And we'll protect you, feed you, look after you, care for you. We won't let anything happen to you. And you'll probably live to be 100. The guy said, well, yeah, I'd live to be 100. But what a way to live. Right. What a way to live, safe and secure. Don't ask for security. Ask for adventure. Better to live 30 years full of adventure than 100 years safe in the corner. And see, it's not important how long you live. What's important is how you live. The next one is pessimism. Pessimism, the deadly disease of always looking on the bad side, the problem side, the difficult side, checking all the reasons why it can't be done. The poor pessimist leads an ugly life. He doesn't try to figure out what's right. He tries to figure out what's wrong. He doesn't look for virtue. He looks for faults. And when he finds them, he's delighted. How ugly. This is the poor guy who looks through the window, doesn't see the sunset. He sees the specks on the window. And this is the poor guy, right, who rushes up, takes such leave of his senses. This guy rushes up and he says, I've got 5 good reasons why it won't work. He's so dumb, he doesn't know. All he needs 1. He's got 5. To the pessimist, the glass is always half empty. To the optimist, the glass is half full. Why would the same measure affect people 2 different ways? Answer. It all depends on how you look at it. Our lives are mostly affected by the way we think things are, not the way they are. The way we think they are affects us most. The last disease, but this one is deadly. Engage in this one, indulge in it even slightly, and you might as well forget the future because it's going to forget you. Complaining, crying, whining, griping, a Bible word called murmuring. See, that'll ace your future. Spend 5 minutes complaining and you have wasted 5. And you may have begun what's known as economic cancer of the bone. Surely they will soon haul you off into a financial desert and there let you choke on the dust of your own regret. I hope I said that well, so you won't forget. It's a deadly disease. If you don't think it's bad, ask the children of Israel of Old Testament fame. Typical of us all, their story just happened to get in the book. Story says, children of Israel were slaves. God performed a series of dazzling miracles and got them out. And now they're heading for the promised land. Remember the story? Heading for the promised land. Tragedy of the story, they never got there. Reason, from day 1, they started to complain. They griped about the water. They griped about the weather. They whined and cried and griped about the food. They griped about the leadership. They whined and cried because it was too far, too cold, too hot, too difficult, too miserable. I mean, they whined and cried for years. Finally, God said, I've had it, trip canceled. The story says they died in the desert, never got to the promise, which I think means 2 things. Indulge in this long enough, you get your future kicked. And I guess it also means even God himself can only take so much. Just be on the lookout of the things that can destroy all the good you start. The war is on. And this evening, tomorrow, mentally, personally, socially, economically, you got to make sure you're winning the war.
Okay, I know I'm lying to myself. I know that my discipline edge, my discipline blade, so to speak, is getting dull. All right? And I can see it when I look in the fucking mirror. And so can you, by the way. You want to know how hard you are? Look in the fucking mirror. That's an exact mirror image of how hard you are on the fucking inside. But here's the thing. Everybody sees people who look great, who have all the confidence, who have all the self-esteem, who have all this ability, who have all these things going for them, and they think they got it all figured out. They think it's easy for them, and that's one of the justifications that they tell themselves, all right? It's not like there aren't days I don't want to go to the gym. The truth is, most of the days I don't want to go to the gym, but I do, even though I don't feel like it. Doesn't matter if there's a fucking tornado, if there's a snowstorm, if there's a hurricane, if the fucking world is on fire. The job has to get done. It's about executing regardless of your emotions. All right. And that's a well-covered topic. I talk about it a lot. All right. But what almost no one talks about is starting to love the days you have to execute, that you have to perform, that you have to get the job done, especially when you don't feel like it. That's what I call test days, and that's what I want to cover with you guys. These test days, guys, these are the days that test your qualities. They test your characters. They test who you think you are.
Life does not always go in our favor. Sometimes it brings us happiness, and many times it brings us pain. It takes days or months or sometimes years to heal emotionally. If you think that all you need is some time to get over something hurtful, trust me that you are not the only one. If we look around, there are thousands of people who are struggling with difficulties of the past. When we get hurt emotionally, it looks like time has stopped and the world has ended. In reality, these wounds hurt, and damages make us stronger than we were before. It's just like how smooth and calm oceans or rivers can't make you a skilled sailor. Similarly, hard times make you a strong person. People always change after being hurt. All you need is to give yourself time to heal, and you will find yourself a completely different person. Being alone does not mean you're lonely. You cannot be lonely if you like the person you're alone with. Don't try to force yourself to get into a relationship in order to avoid being alone. It is much better to have nobody in your life than to have someone who is half there or doesn't want to be there. The sun is alone too, but still it shines. Some people who are emotionally hurt try to move to the next relationship because they think that this would be the better way to forget the old problem. But actually, this isn't the case. Instead, you only deepen the wound even more. Wounds don't heal the way we want them to. Actually, they heal the way they need to. It takes time for wounds to fade into scars. It takes time for the process of healing to take place. If you have a wound on your body and you don't stop touching it, it means that you are going to make it worse, and the healing process will become slower and slower. On the other hand, your wound will be healed much faster if you give time to the healing process. We can use this example for emotional trauma as well, when we try to distract ourselves from the actual problems. Sometimes we get to the point where we don't want to face ourselves and say, I'm stepping off the temporary healing boat. Actually, running away from the problems only increases the distance to the solution. The fact is, you cannot run away from the truth. One day or another, the truth will find you. Now, it's time to bear the situation, no matter how bad it is. Let the process of healing work and trust your God. He will certainly bring pleasure and happiness to your life. When you face any problem in your life, you will definitely get ease after it, and that's the part of life. Therefore, when you are emotionally hurt, just sit and think in your mind that ease is coming soon. Believe me, even in the worst situation, your heart will be totally satisfied, and there will be a smile on your face. Sometimes it happens in our lives that the person we love the most leaves us without thinking even a single time that his or her absence will hurt us a lot. We start to think like our life will be no more. But as time passes, we slowly recover from the trauma and see a new life ahead. Let me tell you one thing. Life is like riding a motorbike. If you want to maintain balance, you have to keep going. The past is like using your rearview mirror in the car. It's good to glance back and see how far you've come, but if you stare too long, you keep crashing. When someone you love the most decides to leave you for good, you have to let them, no matter how much you don't want them to. There are many things in our lives that are not in our control. Even if we have the strength to fight for them, we have to accept the cold, harsh truth that the person you can't live without actually can live without you. So, instead of crying and being deeply saddened, think that it might be a chance for you to find someone that really appreciates your present. One thing we all have experienced in life is that whenever we get hurt, we try to put alcohol or a bandage on it. At first, it burns a little bit, but after some time, you feel that your wound is healing. So, we have to understand the fact that God has made a cycle for everything. At the end, stop wasting time thinking all night about the things you could have done better. You have done nothing wrong. Sometimes people change without a reason. Remember, there are billions of people in the world, and the person who is left was not the last person ever. You will find someone better, so cheer up. Feel happy about yourself. God is with us, so don't worry and have patience.